Studio Time Tech 939 on 939 Solutions FM. These and many more stories will be talked about on the program this morning. We'll be right back after this timeout. Stay tuned.
Rubber vibe. Big one go to work, big one go to work, big one go to work, big one go to work. Over Badaya, over Bubaya, over Badaya, over Bubaya, over Shikotoya, over Babya, over Shikotoya, over Babya, over Tibitu, over Tibia, over Tibitu, over Tibia, over big one go to work, big one go to work.
I had to play this song by late fella Nicolas Pokuti, released in the year 1972, which he called Ruffle Fight. That's the best way to describe the supremacy tussle brewing in between Alaafin of Oyo and the Oni of Ife. Now, we did talk about the ultimatum issued by the media spokesperson of Alaafin of Oyo, giving ultimatum to the Onirisha to rescind on its decision of honoring Dr. Sanusi as Okonlomo of Yoruba land. But I've seen some reports, some statements coming from the media aid of Onirisha, which I would like to read some of them now. Now, looking at this one title, chieftaincy title, Why Oni of Ife Won't React to Alaafin's 48-hour threat, Palace Aid. Let me read through now. Okay. Moses Olafare, the spokesperson for Oni of Ife, Obaini Ogunwusi, has explained the reasons why the monarch will not react to the 48-hour threat by the Alaafin of Oyo, Oba Abimbola Owade, to reverse the title conferred on the popular Ibadan-based business mogul Dr. Sanusi. Olafare, in a Facebook post on Tuesday, disclosed that Oba Ogunwusi had particularly directed him to ignore the revered Oyo monarch. According to him, the Oni will not dignify what he described as undignifiable with an official response, stressing that he had left the matter to be handled in the public court of opinion. He wrote, "My principal has directed me against issuing a press release on the empty threat. I beg to disappoint you, gentlemen of the press. We cannot dignify the undignifiable with an official response. We leave the matter to be handled in the public court of opinion as it is already being treated. Let's rather focus on narratives that unite us rather than the ones capable of dividing us. No press release. Please, 48 hours, my foot." This was released on this Facebook page yesterday morning. And later in the day, there was another statement that came out from Moses Olafare. I'm trying to read the other one too now. Okay, now looking at the paper today, Alaafin's ultimatum, empty threat from a dead empire, on a spokesman. Let me now read that out. Following the 48-hour ultimatum issued by Alaafin of Oyo, Oba Abimbola Owade, to Oni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, to withdraw the Oluomo of Yoruba land title conferred on a business mogul, the Oni spokesperson, Mr. Moses Olafare, yesterday described it as an empty threat from a dead empire. Recall that the Alaafin of Oyo had warned the Oni of Ife to withdraw the recent chieftaincy title of Okonlomo of Yoruba land conferred on an Ibadan-based businessman, Chief Dr. Sanusi. The Alaafin described the action of the Oni as a direct affront to his authority and the traditional institution he represents. The Oyo monarch emphasized that he has the exclusive right to confer chieftaincy titles that encompasses all of Yoruba land, a right affirmed by the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Reacting to the threat on his social media page, WhatsApp, the Oni spokesperson described those who issued the threat as jokers. He said the Oni is busy creating jobs for the teeming youths of the Southwest, while some persons were fighting the supremacy battle through an expired empire. He said the Oni is busy setting up businesses and creating jobs for youths across Yoruba land, they are busy fighting supremacy that does not exist, dead empire. Their 48-hour ultimatum will soon lapse. We are waiting. Dead empire. Oni plans for the groundbreaking and launching of Ojaja Smart City in Ibadan, the biggest in Africa. Someone is somewhere busy issuing 48 hours ultimatum empty threat. I mean, it is really getting messier, comrade. I decided to read all those statements.
It is important to read that thing. Well, you know, when the statements are emanating from the palace of the Alafin, you know, came with some brimstone and fire in form of threats and, you know, and then the palace of Ordin. We're talking about two leading palaces, two leading traditional institutions in Yoruba land here. And one will have thought that when Olafare from the palace of Onirisha said that his principal had told him not to respond. But you see, he used the word to ignore, that they should ignore the palace of Oyo, that
to throw more ballistic missiles.
They will not dignify the undignifiable. And then he ended it by referencing the threats in quote from Oyo,
empty from a dead empire.
No, not even that was not. That's it. Okay. Even the first way say he called it, you know, an invalid threat, and he said,
48 hours
my foot. I mean that you see, I don't understand. I don't think that these guys that are managing people's images understand that their mandate is actually to burnish, to protect, promote, and burnish their image. When you are deploying such words, you are certainly not adding value to that institution, because we're talking about two leading and revered traditional institutions in Yoruba land. I mean, yesterday I called, you know, to people who I know is close to, you know. I said, I know you are involved in this media, you know, apparatus for His Imperial Majesty. What happened? How did that sail into the air? You know, and of course, you know, all the politicking that goes on and the shenanigans everywhere. You know, so I said, how did that get out? And then Ife, we are not going to dignify it, and then you now return in the afternoon. And fire ballistic
missiles.
You know, as if it was an afterthought, an eye for an eye. You know, where will it? And you know the interesting thing, when all of this started, people were pointing, you know, at it, and of course the two palaces were trying to tell us that no, there's no problem, absolutely no problem. They say, you have been going around, you have gone to Ife. If Onirisha attended your installation and said, no, there's no risk.
But some people will say that this supremacy tussle has been existing for years, even before these two monarchs came on board.
Of course, but the management of it by those two principal characters, Oni Olubushe Shijuade, His Imperial Majesty, and the Imperial Majesty in Oyo, Alafin, Lamidi Adeyemi III. You go and read the letter that when a similar scenario, you know, occurred in their time. Go and read the letter that Adeyemi III wrote, and go and the content, you know, the diplomacy and the dignified way he approached, you know, the matter. Not labeling anybody, you know, giving them names and all of that. And even Tommy Kimi, that was to be installed as the Akinrogun of Yoruba land, he even quickly massacred that one second. He said, so this is not something to tarnish your image, because your assignment as the national chairman of a national party is more important than anything else, you know. So that was the language. And that's not this as if you are going to war over words. And you now say an expired empire. Of course, I don't know what happened between the Ignore and the ballistic missiles.
But some people also say that shouldn't the Alafia for your had ignored the chieftaincy title because it's just an honorary chieftaincy title.
You're right, but not necessarily ignore. The man I spoke with says, and I said, what happened to the famed diplomatic prowess of the Yorubas and their diplomacy and maturity? Somebody told me that the Oyo Palace, the first thing in Yoruba diplomacy, would have deployed emissaries to Ife with a message from the Alafin. These are my observations. These are the records. That you don't just
instead of going on social media.
So that is the way. That is the matured way. These things are done. How can two leading palaces that people so much revere,
most revered thrones?
Yes, and then they are the ones in the open space brawling. Because the brawl, did you hear anything directly from the king? Did you hear anything directly from that one? One is saying my principal. The other one is saying...
They, since they are spokespersons for this
they're
monarch,
speaking for them.
They're speaking for them, definitely.
That is it. They're speaking for them.
Because if they are not... and before they release the statement, I'm sure their principals must have gone through the statement.
So they're the ones brawling in the open space.
And it's becoming embarrassing.
It is. That's why I call it brawling. The leaders are now going to call them to a meeting and start saying traditional institutions.
Calling them to a meeting.
Politicians and some people they made give titles. They're the ones that will say that.
Monarchs used to be the ones settling matters in those days.
Politicians will now settle the monarchs.
Okay. Moving away from that story now, let's talk about the PDP convention coming up. Now, PDP convention, Wike's camp meets today to take a position. Now, the question is, if Wike, PDP, it's alarming to know that PDP still knows that there's a Wike faction in that party.
That's the name you gave it.
That's the name they give it on the papers.
Well, that's the name they've chosen to give it. I call them tendencies.
Wike's camp. Now, Wike's camp trying to meet today to take their own position.
Are there no other camps in that
as
part?
regards?
Is there no Sheyi Makinde camp?
But those of the man you mentioned, Sheyi Makinde, has not been engaged or accused of engaging in any anti-party activities in recent time.
He should have been expelled from the party.
In recent time. Now, someone else now...
And his gang, the gang of five, they should have been expelled.
Someone else now, Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, has openly clamored and canvassed for the re-election bid of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is an APC person, and you are still claiming to be in the PDP, and you want to have a decision in the upcoming convention of the PDP. Why is PDP allowing this to thrive?
Like I asked you, how come he's a member of the PDP? He's a member of the PDP from his ward. That's why he belongs to the local government.
But that is
wait a minute. That's if any sanction will come,
okay,
that's where he should come. He's not getting any sanction from that place. He will.
But the direction should have come from above.
From above? No, yes. It doesn't come from above. Even if it comes from above, it will be executed at the base. And if you don't get the base to execute, so that's just it. It's a game of power.
Is PDP afraid of Nyesom Wike? Let us call a spade a spade. Is PDP afraid of doing carrying out a disciplinary action against Nyesom Wike with all the things he says?
I think the days of party discipline, you understand, they're out of the window. And you see, what we have are not political parties. What we have are special purpose vehicles for grabbing power. You understand? If we have political parties, we'll have... what kind of organization is it that will not be disciplined?
There seems to be more discipline in the APC at the national level.
You see,
Because now
after
PDP is going
2027.
for the convention. They are coming for convention in Ibadan now, and Wike will be present there, and
Okay.
he'll be making decisions.
Is there no discipline in Oyo PDP? Huh? There's discipline in Oyo PDP too.
So what
Because
is
they-
wrong with the national level
Or PDP?
or PDP? Yes.
Do you think if PDP had the president in office, they will not stay in line? They will. So you can also say that the power at the center is the thing wielding and gluing APC because the president holds the carrot and the stick. And I mean, not necessarily by smashing the stick on their head, but they know he has it. So he applies more carrot.
Okay.
It's about power.
It's about power.
Yes. The president said it. It's not power is not served a la carte.
So you're saying in essence that we are not seeing the problems in the APC because they are in power at the moment.
Largely, I can tell you that. But there comes a time if the needful is not done, you understand? Even with the power, things will come apart.
You as a Nigerian, when the PDP have its convention in Ibadan, and you see Wike still making decisions there, as a Nigerian, will you take that party seriously? Judging by what Wike has openly said many occasions, saying that no, I am. He recently even said that if PDP should bring out a Southerner as its candidate, he will still vote for Bola Ahmed Tinubu from the APC, and this man will be attending the PDP convention way forward, a very crucial meeting of the PDP. It's like you are harboring a mole in your fold.
That is the interpretation of it. They think.
But that's what it looks like.
They probably think that yes, Wike is still valuable.
That's why I'm saying that is PDP afraid of Wike? They can't just discard him. That is it. That's what it's looking like.
It doesn't necessarily amount to being afraid of Wike. I don't think so. And don't forget that politics is driven by interests. Solely by interest. My interest, your interest. And then we have an aggregation of those interests. That's why we have the political powers and them working together to secure power. But look, don't you know that there are places in which before they go to elections, if there are many power blocks, one power block will take it's happened during the Buhari era. CPC took presidency, ACN took vice presidency, New PDP took what do you call it? The leadership of the Senate. And look at the politics that preceded it. Tinubu was supposed to be the vice presidential candidate. But Saraki, wanting to fulfill the ambition of emerging as the Senate president, knew that if the president was Muslim, the VP was Muslim, it was going to be very, very difficult for him to sell his own candidature. So he had to ensure that the Tinubu did not get on that ticket. And that was when they were saying Muslim ticket, he cannot work in Nigeria. He cannot work in Nigeria because of his own interest. And Tinubu understood that. And of course, he played along, you understand? Because he had his eyes on the goal beyond all those petty. So he didn't want to pull down the roof because of that. That's strategic thinking. So this is the ultimate goal, the ultimate prize is power.
Now, in this convention, I believe that they'll be electing their national escorts now.
No, the what do you call it? The National Working Committee.
The National Working Committee.
Yeah.
And definitely, Wike will want to have his men, some of his men on board.
So, naturally. The structure of the party.
And then they proceed to when they want to do the primaries to pick a candidate, right? Mm-hmm. And they will bring a candidate.
Who will bring a candidate?
The PDP will get the candidate, the presidential candidate eventually.
Yes.
And the working committee are supposed to be working for the success of that candidate.
Even in setting up the apparatus for electing the candidate.
And we have Anisom Wike that will definitely have his men in that committee.
Just like other interests too.
And you think Nigerians will take PDP seriously?
It depends on where your interest lies.
Before we conclude this segment from the papers, let's talk about this update coming from the NCAA, talking about revising the phone regulations on domestic flights, saying that all electronic devices must be switched off during takeoff, landing. NCAA says no to airplane mode. Now, that's an update to what happened the last week concerning Comfort Emerson, who was told to switch off our phone, and that incident degenerated into something more embarrassing. So
yes, that was
in 2 minutes.
That was something that looked like a hiding place. Okay. You can put your plane. You are also allowed to put your phone on flight mode. So that is where people usually hide, so to say. So if the line looks blurry, NCA just went there to remove the blurry lines. So crystal clear now. You switch off your
safety
phone.
First.
Safety last. Safety at all times.
Okay. Morning updates on Solutions 93.9 FM. Switching gears now. It's 10 o'clock and it's about time for us to bring on board the representatives of the Global Right Nigeria. We'll be talking, sensitizing the public on the roles and activities of civil society organizations in the country. You'll get to listen to their voices in a jiffy. Stay tuned.
Ahead of the curve and get updates on the latest trends in politics, government, policies, education, economy, social development, amongst others.
We're happy to announce today that both the federal government and the organized labor have agreed on an increase on the 62,000 naira minimum wage.
Join
Ayodeji Ajishope
and
Adedamola Lafenwa
on from the Dailies every weekday from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on Solutions 93.9 FM as they dive into the headlines with in-depth analysis and feedback from you on different stories from the national dailies. Start your day by gaining fresh perspectives, uncovering the story behind the story, and join the conversation. Because your voice matters. From the Dailies, the conversation never stops.
Alright, you're welcome back. Still from the Dailies on Solutions 93.9 FM AM update. Okay, now, like I did say, we have the representatives of the Global Right Nigeria live in the studio with us this morning, and they are here to talk about or to sensitize Nigerians on the roles and activities of civil society organizations in the country. I have Mr. Damilola Deka and also Mrs. Oluwatoyin Ogedengbe. Nice to have you with us this morning.
Yes, a good morning to you.
Okay, now, let me start by asking you, Global Rights Nigeria, what is the association or the organization all about?
Global Rights, let me introduce myself. Damilola Deka, Program Officer on Civic Space. Damilola Deka. Okay, Damilola Deka. Program Officer on Civic Space Strengthening for Global Rights here. Global Rights is an international non-governmental organization working across several thematic areas, majorly related to human rights. Majorly going to several thematic areas like equitable resource governance, gender-based violence, civic space, and governance. Essentially, major role is trying to bridge the gap between the people and the government. That's essentially what we do with regards to civic space at Global Rights.
Okay. So, so we narrow this to the civic space. Can you please break down for us when you say the civic space in the Nigerian context?
Okay, the civic space is essentially the citizen square. It's in a democracy. Ideally, there should be a channel, an open space where government should be able to listen to the people. So essentially, by virtue of the fact that Nigeria practices democracy, and I put democracy quote and unquote, we have certain rights that are guaranteed in our constitution that every citizen enjoys. We have the freedom of expression, we have the freedom of association, we have the freedom of peaceful assembly, and we also have the right of the press, which the media, to hold government accountable, which is what you guys do over here. So those are the key civic space rights that's contained in the Constitution. Of course, there are other rights like the right to vote, the right to engage in democracy and all that, but those are the core civic space rights that underpin a democracy. So the civic space is essentially the citizen square, how that area, that space that allows people in democracy to engage with governmental actors and engage with them.
Can I just do a follow-up to that, please? So what's your assessment of the Nigeria civic space since 1999 that we transited back to what I would call civil rather than...
Sorry, I didn't quite get that question, but I think what you are saying is an assessment of Nigeria civic spaces.
Yes.
Since 1999
when we transited to civil.
That's a very, very elaborate question. But what I would say is, people have said that as far as our democracy is concerned, we don't really necessarily practice it, or we practice civilian rule.
That's what I said.
Yeah, because you have a situation whereby we have periodic elections. Elections hold every 4 years. But throughout, during that period within the 4 years, you wonder how those civic space rights I mentioned are enjoyed. Let me just put things in context. Global Rights did a research where we titled the report after that research we called it Shege, where we assessed the civic space during the Buhari administration. And what we realized, at least for the past administration, past civil administration in Nigeria, was that the civic space was seriously repressed under the Buhari regime.
Okay.
And Civicus, there's an organization called Civicus. Civicus releases a report every year where they grade the civic space for all the countries all over the world. And Nigeria's ranking as at 2024 was repressed, which is second lowest next to closed. So you have closed in places like Sudan, all those places that are war-torn, that are seriously, where the civic space is seriously closed. But in Nigeria just ranks a little bit over that, which is by virtue of, and just ranks a little bit higher than that, and they say it's repressed. Why? Because we don't really enjoy these rights. There's a freedom of expression in the books, but dare you dissent. There was a recent press release we put out concerning the closure of a radio station in Niger State, Badegi FM. I don't know what you heard about.
Yeah, but yes, we did.
Yes, where we put out, and we said, why was it closed? Because there were certain actions by the radio station or actors on the radio station that were seen as anti-government, and the governor ordered it closed. We have seen Idris Abdulkarim released a song a song talking about the serious economic plight that Nigerians are going through with regards to inflation and all that, with regards to our economy. And what happened? The NBC tried to ban that song.
Okay.
So we have these rights in the books, we have these rights in our constitution, but they're not really being enjoyed. Let me take you back to the End Bad Governance protest we had last year in August, where Nigerians were saying that the twin demons of insecurity and inflation are seriously hurting them, expressing their dissent peacefully. And we had, what do we have? A lot of people were arrested, a lot of people were killed during those protests. And in fact, we had a situation where minors were charged to court on grounds of treason because they protested. So what we have in Nigeria is essentially civilian rule. Let's be very, very honest with ourselves. We have these rights on the books, but what we don't, I won't say that we are really enjoying the democracy. And that's why Civicus rightly ranked our civic space as repressed.
Okay, I'll pick you from where you stopped. You said we have these rights in the books, but we are not enjoying them. Now, I've noticed personally over the years that this civil society organizations generally, they are not being taken seriously, even by the government in power. We've had so many policies that the government recently put up, and the civil organizations will come up and say no, and they are being ignored in one way. Do we say that their presence is not being felt enough? I mean, what's the essence of having this right in the books, and we don't have people that will speak on behalf of Nigerians to all these ills?
I think that's painting with a very, very wide brush. I think civil society does a lot.
I know they do a lot.
Because you might not hear every aspect of what civil society does, or there are a lot of people that are working in communities, forgotten communities in Nigeria, working for what we call what we are in the civil space called invisible groups, setting targets, setting groups of people who by virtue of government policies have been ignored. I will cite examples of the youth. Okay. The youth who are statistics say that about 65% of Nigeria's population, and they are the future. And you see a lot of government policies that are being crafted, and they are not in the room. Recently, there was last year, in a bid to placate the youths who came out for the End Bad Governance process, they announced the national confab, the youth confab. Since then, we have seen very, very little concrete steps that even indicate that the confab like that will happen. So the only time they concentrate on youths is when it's elections are around the corner. They rush to youths, try to buy their votes and even use them for political violence. So the youths, elderly persons, what is the government's policy on elderly persons? We cannot avoid the fact that every one of us is going to get old. What is the government? How is government crafting policies that are taking care of the elderly? I would talk about the fact that majority of the communication methods that are being developed today, that are coming up in real social media, are not necessarily accessible to our elderly. So, how does government craft those policies? Women, yes, we're talking about the inclusive. We're trying to force some seats, extra seats for women at the National Assembly and at State House of Assembly. I heard recently that Oyo State House of Assembly has only two women, and these are people from 50% of the population. So these are invisible groups. Civil society organizations have been working across several sectors, several spheres, trying to bridge the gap and make sure these people's concerns and needs are being expressed. But as you said, they're not taken seriously. Some of them are not taken seriously by bad governmental actors. I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
If you realize civil society is not the adversary, we must have we speak. I dare not speak for every member of every civil society organization, but I say that I, as a civil society actor, we don't chase an adversarial relationship with government. We want to work in partnership with government. We want to bridge the gap between democracy and the people. We don't want an adversarial relationship with government. We want to work in partnership with them. We want to draw them, hold them accountable, because that's our role. Where you make budgets and when you allocate certain sums of money and we don't see those funds being utilized for those particular purposes for which they were allocated, we have a right to call you out. But that does not mean we will seek an adversarial relationship with government. Government should take civil society seriously because we play a very important role in bridging the gap between citizens and the government.
Now, Mr. Ogugide, we are in a democracy, the Fourth Republic. We've been on this for 25 years now, a quarter of a century. And I'm surprised, considering the role played by CSOs, even in the military era, I'm surprised that CSOs did not transit, to take advantage of democracy and lobbying as a powerful tool, in the National Assembly to get, policies, laws specifically pushed.
Thank you very much. I'm Mrs. Oluwatoyin Ogedengbe, ED, Pan-African Purpose-Driven Women Initiative, and it's a pleasure to be here. Yes, in response to your question, sir, a lot of things are ongoing, and it's one of the reasons that the conference that is holding tomorrow is taking place.
Okay.
We have this conference taking place at different regions in Nigeria. The one for the Southeast held a month ago. And the one for the Southwest that is coming up tomorrow, we also had one that held last year. So this is the second in episode. And we are speaking to ourselves also, stirring ourselves up. We have in the National Assembly one of the spokesperson who actually is in charge of the CSOs, who was in attendance. I believe that we're also going to be having a representative. So what we're doing, like my colleague said, we do not want to be seen as adversaries. We want a situation where we lobby through advocacies. So what we're doing, that's what we're pushing forward with the state actors. We do not want to be seen as enemies of government. We want the government to come to a point where we're sitting together as a round table discussion, where they're looking at all of these issues dispassionately, and they're coming up with an understanding of who we are as civil society organizations. So the speakings that we're doing, for instance, what Global Rights has sponsored with the European Union is what we call the community of practice, because we realize that from our end as civil society organizations, in years gone by, a lot of us had worked in silos, which is also one of the issues or one of the reasons where I may say that government really hadn't taken us seriously. But that has changed over the years. So we're beginning to have a voice. So we have what we call the community of practice in Oyo State, for instance. So we have the trainings that are put together, ensuring that civil society organizations also understand their own rights, they understand how to respond to government policies and how to lend a voice. For instance, in Oyo State, on the 28th of June, we had a meeting, was stakeholders engagement on the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council. And we had representatives from the civil societies who were part of that. Just last week, at the Ministry of Budget and Planning, we had a meeting on open government partnership. And we are glad that Oyo State has keyed into that this is one of the avenues. We had the, I would say, the very first meeting, inaugural meeting in 2023. So from that 2023, we have created a platform, and the commissioner engaged us last week. So we have representatives from the civil society organizations, and we're lending our voice to policies that before the policies are even made, what we are asking for is co-creation. Co-creation is what we're asking for. So this is government here. The civil societies are here. We're trying to bridge the gap between government
and the governed.
And the governed. Yeah. So we are the ones at the grassroots. We are the foot soldiers. We are the ones who go into all of these spaces. So we are asking government to bring us to the table. We're meeting with them, consulting with them, consultation, advocacy. So I want to say again, we are not adversaries of government. We're not enemies of government. And we want government to see us that way, that we are partners in progress. I mean, SDG 17, partnership for the goals. There is no way that the government alone can do it. There is no way that civil societies alone can do it. But when we come together and begin to look at this, can we co-create solutions to all of these issues? Like we have different focal areas for, civil society organizations. In Oyo State, for instance, my organization is catering to the needs of women in exploitative and harmful occupations. And Oyo State has been flagged, as one of the states with the highest number of trafficked victims. So government alone cannot do this. So it's the civil societies who are going into the spaces, going to the market, doing the sensitization, and then we bring our reports
take the reports to government. Oh, these are the things that we have seen on the field. So what will be the appropriate response? So what response was given last year? Can we see the report? How did that help the situation? If it hasn't helped the situation, what can we do better? So this is where we are as civil society
Now, Mr.
organizations.
Deka, let me ask you this: the civic space in Nigeria. What are the challenges on one hand with the government, and on the what are the challenges in Nigeria's civic space? You know, on one hand with government when you interface with government, and the people on the other hand.
I think with regards to challenges with the people, I think lack of knowledge.
Okay.
A lot of people are walking around as citizens and do not know the powers that the Constitution grants them as citizens. That's why you can get someone to sell their vote for 5,000 naira because they don't really know what
Or less.
how valuable that vote is. I think for as far as citizens are concerned, knowledge. I'm going to give you an example. Last year, we had Daniel Ojukwu, an investigative journalist with FIJ, Foundation for Investigative Journalism, was arrested by the police while in service of his investigative reporting. And we organized, alongside other civil society organizations, we organized a protest at the police headquarters in Abuja. We said it house. So I participated in that protest. On my way to the protest, I was picked up by a boat driver. So when we got to the close to the police station, I saw people protesting. He was now asking, what is happening? What's happening? I said, I'm here for this protest too. That a journalist was arrested. You know, he was reporting on something terrible, and he was calling out, you know, this terrible thing that was happening, and he was arrested. Then you know what the man said? The man said, this journalist massive. What their wala is too much. So when you have someone, you can imagine that their wala is too much. So you can imagine what the average citizen thinks.
Their wala is too much in an attempt to inform you.
Inform you about something terrible that is going on, how your funds are being used, you know, wrongly and all that. And so their wala is too much. So we need to as civil society organizations and the media. This is where you play a very, very important role. We have to bridge knowledge gap. Citizens have to be armed with knowledge. They need to know what is right, what their rights are. And they also have, of course, as a citizen, you still have certain responsibilities. Not every single terrible thing that happens means a breach of your rights. You should know your rights. I think that's the part we need to do on regards to citizens. As far as on the government side, I think the major issue is people who just assume this assumption. Maybe people are necessarily power drunk by virtue of the fact that you hold certain positions and you think that gives you unlimited power. And it's by virtue of the fact of the way we have done our democracy, or done our civilian rule in Nigeria over 25 years, that people think, you know, I'm in power, I have this power for a certain amount of time, and therefore I can do just about anything. There's an impunity culture that is ingrained in our politics in Nigeria, as ingrained in our government officials in Nigeria, and that informs a lot of things that they do. That's why someone can say, because I can order a closure of a radio station. That is why we can order the arrest of citizens for practicing their rights to peaceful assembly, for professionalizing their rights to peaceful assembly, and say they should be charged with treason. That is why we can ban Twitter. There was a time that's one of the major breaches of the freedom of expression we have had in Nigeria in 25 years since 1999, where the Buhari administration said Nigerians should not engage on a social media platform. In fact, we got all sorts of courts, including the ECOWAS Court of Justice, said that was a massive infringement on the rights of freedom of expression of Nigerians. It was terrible. That is why people can do that. Impunity. This is the time where the former president is late now. God rest his soul. But we need to. I want to encourage politicians and people in power, people in government, to think about their legacies and legacies that they leave. We will forever remember that the Buhari administration banned Twitter in Nigeria and prevented Nigerians from accessing their right to freedom of expression. that cannot be erased away.
Okay, now I'm still coming back to you, Mrs. Mogedengbe, on the conference matter, but this is for you, Mr. Decker. Now, are the activities of CSOs in Nigeria being regulated or over-regulated? And if they are being over-regulated, what are the impacts of the over-regulation of the activities of CSOs in this civic space? Okay, Mr. Decker, yeah, you can.
Okay, so I would say we have done some research, and we realized that once you register your CSO at the federal level, we get the CSA registration under CAMA, which is Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. There are 28 regulatory regimes that you have to comply with at the federal level. We are global rights in furtherance of trying to improve the operational environment for CSOs in Nigeria, has been training CSOs at the subnational level about their responsibilities, about these regimes. And what we have realized is that when many people hear about these things, they get discouraged. When you say, oh, after registering with CSA, maybe you have a passion for widows in your community, like Ms. Ogedebe, who works with trafficked women. Maybe that was stirred out of passion. She has probably had a story of a trafficked woman and said, this is something that is not right. It should be we need to work on this. We need to prevent this from happening. And passion leads you to register a civil society organization to work on that particular area. And lo and behold, once you register, you now get hit like a ton of bricks with a slew of registrations or regulations that you have to apply. A lot of regimes from FIRS, from the FIRS regime, non-profit taxation, to the not-for-profit governance code, to pensions, to NSITF, all different government MDAs with all sorts of regulations on you. Now, that has the effect of over stifling the civic space, because several people are going to be discouraged. Several organizations are not going to perform optimally because they can't keep up. They really can't keep up with the level of regulation. Nobody is saying that the space should be left, unchecked. No, we're not saying it should become a free for all. But we are saying that regulations should be, if regulations exist, regulations should be put in place with the aim of encouraging and stimulating society organizations to do their work and perform optimally. So our research has revealed, to your question specifically, our research has revealed that the area that the civil society sector is overly regulated.
Okay, now let me now ask you this before Comrade asks you another one. Now, what do you think should be the ideal model of regulating the non-profit sector in Nigeria, the CSOs? What should be the ideal way of regulating them?
The ideal way is to encourage participation. I mentioned civic space rights. The key civic space right is the freedom of association. When you register a civil society organization, you are practicalizing that right to freedom of association. So it does not make sense to put the freedom of association in our constitution and encourage citizens to express it or to carry it out or to practicalize it. And at the back door, the government takes a hand. They're now putting a slew of regulations that prevent you, that discourage you from actually practicalizing that freedom of association. So the ideal model is where CSOs are able to operate optimally, and regulations do not come in the form of bureaucratic bottlenecks, do not become too cumbersome in the sense that they prevent you from operating optimally. Okay. Let me break this down. We did a research where we carried out we sought to find out the grading of each state, 36 states in Nigeria plus the FCT, with regards to the operational environment for CSOs in those states. And what our research revealed, you would not believe the states that came up trumps or came up first in that list. You had Sokoto came up first. States from the CSOs in the south, in the northwest states, and places like Sokoto emerged as the best, the most friendly environment for CSO operations. Why? Because they streamlined their operations. You there in Sokoto, you register as a CSO. You register with one government MDA, maybe the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and you are allowed to operate freely across several thematic areas. what we are seeing down south, majorly in the southern states, I mean, because we majorly work, this project that is being funded by the European Union is being implemented in southern states. We realize that down south, the operational environment is a lot more harder, because when you register with one, as a CSO with one government MDA, you have to keep, if you want to branch into another thematic area, you have to register with another government MDA. So, for example, in Oyo, you register with Ministry of Women Affairs, as you are working in the area of maybe women and children, and you might want to delve into the area of maybe environment or something like that. You have to register with Ministry of Environment, or you have to register. So it's a multiplicity of registration points, which stifles CSO operations.
Oh, I'll say this. I recall that when a bill was introduced in the National Assembly, in an attempt to regulate the setting up and all of that of the media, it was shut down in an uproar. I mean, of course, I recall the Karma bill that was passed into law. I would ask what happened, where were the CSOs when all of these got passed? And then all the regulations at the local levels, subnational. Why the CSOs are challenging them?
Oh, I think that is a bit of an unfair characterization, because if you remember very well, the Karma 2020 was passed during COVID. Because of that COVID period, a lot of processes that would have been ideal, things like the public hearing and all that.
No, I don't think they would have been ideal. They are mandatory.
Yeah, no, yes.
I worked in the National Assembly.
Yes, National Assembly. But I'm saying that some consultation with CSOs was not as extensive as it should have been. The idea of Karma was its Companies and Allied Matters Act. If you notice, the key parts of that is the companies and maybe business names which Karma regulates. Unbeknownst to CSOs, a lot of introductions were made in that bill.
That is what happened when these things happen, when law bills had to be processed, and that's what happened. Even extraneous stuff are brought in.
Yes, that's what we are saying. So extraneous stuff was brought in, and it was passed. Before we say Jack Robinson, it was passed into law. Now we are working assiduously. Global rights. Madam Ogedebe mentioned the chairman of the CSO committee at the National Assembly, at the House of Representatives of the National Assembly, Honorable Victor Obuzo, who is a partner of Global Rights in regards to this project. We are working assiduously towards getting Karma amended. But apart from that, also several CSOs, including the Christian Association of Nigeria, have dragged CAC, the National Assembly, and grabbed CAC, that's the Corporate Affairs Commission, to court over implementation of certain aspects of that Karma. So we are taking different routes in order to try and get that Karma amended, or trying to get Karma changed. That we are working towards that. It's not. You are absolutely right. A lot of extraneous stuff has been introduced. With regards to the state level, that is what we are doing here. That's what the Southwest Regional Conference is about. We are discussing with state actors. We are discussing with government actors at several levels. To how do we make it that your policies, your laws are more friendly to CSO operations. So it's not as if we're just lying down and taking things. No. We are working towards trying to fix that problem.
Okay, in case you're just tuning in, you've run to AM Update on Solutions 93.9 FM. I'm speaking with the representatives of the Global Rights in Nigeria, sensitizing the public on the activities of civil society organizations in the civic space. We'll continue right after this break. Stay tuned.
My mission is simple: to take over your body, to cause fever, chills, headache. But one thing stands in my way. Come on.
If effective relief from malaria. Comal on, malaria gone. If symptoms persist after 3 days, consult doctor.
Unstoppable you, fueling your vitality the whole day through. Embrace each challenge with renewed might. With Supermalt, your performance takes flight.
With 20 essential vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, one Supermalt multivitamin after breakfast every day keeps you going.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. Still speaking with the representatives of global rights in Nigeria. And this question is coming to you, Mrs. Ogedengbe. Now, you talked about the conference which is coming up tomorrow, right? Now, has this conference been a yearly thing?
The project is this project on the strengthening of the civic space. It's an ongoing project started by Global Rights. So the conference started last year. Okay. We had a national conference 2 years ago, but the regional conferences started last year. So what we're having tomorrow is going to be the second edition in the Southwest. The first edition was held in Abeokuta, Ogun State last year. So Oyo State is hosting the Southwest Conference this year, which is coming up tomorrow. All
right, now my question now is, based on your experience and the issues and action plans that were put in place after last year's edition of the conference, describe the current operational environment for CSOs in the Southwest region.
Thank you very much. So after the conference last year, some of the action plans, let me talk about the perspective for us as CSOs. One of the things that we agreed on was to have the training for the civil society organizations themselves to be brought up to speed to the regulatory compliance that they need to adhere to. So we've had trainings in Oyo State, in Ogun State. Now, there are not all the states in the Southwest are part of the project. We have Oyo State, Ogun State, and Osun State. So these selected states, trainings have been held in batches with civil society organizations. So in Oyo State, we've had 2 series of the trainings held. Now, to be able to bring us up to speed with regards to those regulations that we need to comply with. And in Oyo State, we've had the 2 trainings. We've had over 60 organizations that have been trained already. The same with Ogun State, the same with Osun State. So what we're doing this year is we've also had the midterm review, the assessment and evaluation, where Global Rights that's outsourced that assessment and evaluation to an independent consultant. And the consultant went round the states on the project to ascertain the level of compliance. So what we have done, for instance, in Oyo State, after the first training, what we did was to visit the SCOMO office, because of course, when it comes to the issues of terrorist, financing and all of that is also part of the regulations that once you are registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission, you also are expected to go register and get the certificate. So that was also an issue at some point, that some persons, there were allegations that, people were asking for funds when the registration was supposed to be free. So from the training, I must give that to Global Rights. After the training, we had engagement. So what this training is doing for us is to bring officials from these various government ministries, departments, and agencies, bring us together. So we're looking at all of the areas. We're looking at the gray areas. We're saying, these areas should be left out. We're not clear about this area. So in Oyo State, we had to go to the office at Yagoku, and a training was done for over 50 civil society organizations in 2023. So after that training, for instance, my organization benefited from that. The registration was done free of charge as stipulated under the law. So these are some of the outcomes that we have seen that is now spreading. And so coming back to this conference now is to look back and check with the other states. So even the other states that are not part of the project, Lagos State, Ondo State, Ekiti State, they are also going to be part of the conference, so that what happens with us, because the project will come to an end at some point in 2026 into 2027, but what this project is to do for us as CSOs is to take ownership, that once the project is off, we take it up and begin to build. So that is why we have what we call the community of practice. So what we're doing is we also have the aspect on the registration with the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Okay.
So we've also had people from there, because a lot of civil society organizations, like my colleague said, several of us went into the space out of passion. Oh, you saw a gap, you saw a need, and felt, oh, let me do something, without, really understanding some of the intricacies, involved. Underlining that once you register with CAC, you have to do filings, you have to do all of that, which is one of the things also that this is seeking to also do. So some of the backlogs to see, okay, how can we clear some of these backlogs for some of the organizations that are not able. I mean, you're talking about an organization working in Okiogun, an organization working in Kajola, Imea community, and all of that, and they do not have the funds to be able to do this. But what they have, they're using to meet the needs at those levels. So we've seen, we had to draw up a list of organizations that have undergone the training. So now say, okay, go check with FIRS. What do you have as outstanding? And then Global Rights is taking that up to say, let's engage with this government ministry to see how a waiver can be given. So these are some of the things that have happened since the last conference.
Okay.
Ma'am, I'd still like to stay with you. Of course, you deal with the female gender-related stuff. And in the Nigeria's political space, we haven't seen enough women, and we know women, the position they occupy in society. Elections are coming again. Just like you said, Nigerians think democracy is just a cycle of 4 years election. What are you doing in the knowledge gap for the women folk?
Thank you so much. Part of what we're doing as civil society organizations is sensitization and asking people to be involved. For instance, I'm also privileged to be a pastor. So religious leaders were also saying, apart from praying, declaring fastings and prayers of several days, see how to get involved from the grassroots level, at the ward levels. Go for the meetings, go and register, get involved in all of these activities, and see how you can be part of not just voting, but also become a part of the policy makers. So majorly what we're doing at this point is enlightenment, sensitization. That's what we're doing.
Okay, I'm still staying with you, Ma, since you deal more with the female gender now. And I heard Mr. Decker saying that you also handle the issue of female trafficking and stuff like that, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, now it's been a prevalent issue over the past years where you see young girls being lured out of the country illegally to engage them in many things. I've seen many girls. There was a particular friend of mine that was telling me about the experience his younger sister had in Libya. I mean, with your organization and what you've been able to do in the past few years, how has it been able to be helpful? Has it reduced the occurrences of young girls being lured out of the country?
Thank you.
This means
it hasn't reduced the number, even though awareness is ongoing. What we have seen, I had the privilege of being the coordinator of Child Protection Network of your state from 2021 to last year, 2024. And I was part of what you call family tracing. So the IOM receives calls from some of these ladies who've been trafficked, and they tell you the terrible situations they're in. So they give details of their homes, their parents, their addresses. So you go and do the home tracing. A particular incident, by the time we got to it took us days before we could locate the family house. And in fact, at some point they were afraid, thought, oh, maybe we're after them to arrest them. But we had to let them know, no, this is not what we're out for. Your daughter is in a situation. And then by the time we engaged with them, we realized, oh, it was somebody who just came and said, oh, you people are suffering. There's greener pasture somewhere. And then the daughter, of course, got in the hands of this person. But thankfully, she's been brought back. So what has been done over the years, like I said, is that yes, awareness is ongoing, but we see also many times the gullibility of our people. So what we did, for instance, to mark the day against trafficking a couple of weeks ago was to go to the market.
Okay.
To let people be aware. Because sometimes the greed, we must address the greed in us as a people. That sometimes, it's what you're looking for, when you are not content in some instances. This is what leads a lot of these people into these situations. Now, many times also, we're focusing more on the international trafficking. But the national, the one that happens interstate, my organization also deals with that. And you have ladies who are trafficked for prostitution.
Yes.
So they're brought from the south region. You have a lot of them here in your state. So you have a lot of, brothels. That when you go to those brothels, and because of the issues of insurgency and insecurity, especially in the Middle Belt, in five years ago, you were having more ladies from Delta, the region there. But now you are having from the Middle Belt. So you go into those spaces and you're seeing a lot of ladies from that region. And they're saying to you, some of them, it's not that they are not, some are learned, schooled, some even have skills, but because of insecurity, they've been lured, they have been told, oh, if you come to this place, there's, relative peace.
It's safer there.
But when they now get here, they realize it's not that there's one job that is available, and then there's somewhere they have to go to. So it's also happening here. So what we're saying is that we're holding religious leaders accountable, traditional leaders accountable for sensitization. We really need to, because we realize also that some of these issues that until some particular set of people are the ones advocating for those things, are people who don't listen. So except maybe the pastor over the pulpit or the imam, or the Jumat is talking about it. So we're also using those avenues to be able to create awareness and sensitization.
Okay, do you also engage in school outreach?
Absolutely.
Reaching out to the younger girls too in schools?
Yes, we do that as well. We go to schools, we do sensitization in various schools in partnership with the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Decker, you earlier talked about the knowledge gap. You earlier talked about the knowledge gap in the civic space. So let's narrow it down to the political space now. How does that impact the political space regarding the governed and those who govern, especially choosing who to cast your ballot for?
I think there's a Bible verse that says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." If you are not informed, you don't. And I'm going to draw in the media into this. If you are not informed, as a citizen,
who says they are not informed? They are political leaders. They are world leaders.
I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. If you are not informed, you don't. If you're not informed as a citizen, you might not make the right choice. Even if you are informed, of course, because of poverty and because of the situation that we have, the social economic situation we have in the country, votes can be bought, because you can know someone is a bad candidate, and you might vote for him because actually your vote is being bought.
And there's a saying that says, if you are not informed, you are deformed.
Exactly. Thank you for phrasing it another way. Another thing that happens is the way political campaigns are run in our country.
Weak political campaigns.
The way political campaigns and the way political campaigns are run, the kind of issues that are raised in political campaigns in Nigeria.
They are not issue based.
They are not issue based. They're not issue based. We have two fault lines in Nigeria of religion and ethnicity. And whenever any politicians can lay hold of those fault lines and press them and use them they have proved very, very active tools, very active tools in trying to get citizens to vote in elections. The fault lines of ethnicity and religion. Global rights did research. I kept on talking about research. We do a lot of research on global rights. We did research last year where we tried to gauge the impact of hate speech and fake news with regards to elections. What we realized was that fake news and hate speech are deeply embedded in how political campaigns are run.
Are they potent?
I'm going to give you an example of Lagos. During the last presidential elections, there was a certain tribe in this country that, by virtue, because of that part, because they were political campaigns, they were political actors of repute or traditional rulers of repute, who through their statements tried to prevent people from a particular tribe from voting in Lagos State in last elections. And what did we see? Even though the Electoral Act in 2022 specifically penalizes, states that there are certain issues that should not be raised up with regards to campaigns. Hate speech is banned when it comes to campaigns. We saw that those people were not held accountable. So that's another issue. We have seen several political actors over several election cycles who have come out, who have said terrible things, who have insinuated several things about people based on factors that are not really important, that should not matter. Their ethnicity, their religion, calling them all sorts of names. And what happens? The election goes, though sometimes those people are even rewarded after elections are passed with political positions. So until we begin to hold people accountable, until we begin to say that political campaigns should be run on issues. We have a lot of issues. We have a lot of issues that are worth campaigning about. There are a lot of issues that are. I mean, look at our current economic state. Look at our current the current situation we are in. The government is borrowing us into that debts that our children will probably not be able to pay. We have serious issues.
What happened to agenda setting?
Yes.
Who sets the agenda?
Who sets the agenda? I think it goes across. It cuts across several areas. Political parties have to demand better from their candidates. Political actors have to demand better for themselves. Citizens have to demand better. You can't be sitting down as a citizen.
Citizens that do not know, what are you doing about that?
That's what I'm talking about. We're talking about bridging the gap. The media has a responsibility to agenda set. I had the previous segment you guys were holding before we joined, and you were talking about some of these issues. The media has a responsibility to agenda set. The media has a responsibility to inform citizens, that this is you should not sell your votes. Your votes matter. Your votes matter, and you should be very, very sensitive about the kinds of issues you are allowing people to campaign about. You have a responsibility when you talk to political actors, because you have access to them to say this issue that you're talking about is not really important. Agenda set. Tell them these are the issues that are germane, that are important to Nigerians at this time. We cannot be talking about issues of ethnicity. We cannot be talking about issues of religion in 21st century when we are going through this spate of insecurity, when Nigerians are dying every day. Okay. We really can't be talking about those kind of issues at this time. So across the board, citizens must do better, political actors must do better, political parties must do better. The media also have a responsibility to demand better from political actors and citizens, and also inform citizens.
Okay. Now, I like the fact that you mentioned the Lagos state. Now, let me ask you this. Is there any state in the country or region that is getting it right in creating an ideal environment for CSO's operations? And if there is any of such state, what are they doing to get these things right?
Yeah, I think I addressed this question earlier. Sokoto. I said Sokoto State. Okay. We did our research, and Sokoto State emerged trumps as the best state for when it comes to CSO operations in Nigeria. Okay. So Sokoto State and the state in the northwest. And why? It's rather simple. They have one agency. The government has a policy that one agency registers a CSO in the state, and by virtue of that registration, you have freedom to operate freely and across all thematic areas, which is not the case in majority of the southern states, where you have multiplicity of registration points costing you money and several bureaucratic hurdles if you want to register, you want to work as a CSO in those states.
Okay. Yes, when you were talking about the space in some parts of the country being more tolerable than here, what do you think is responsible for that? Is it because there's a concentration of these CSOs in these parts that you referenced, and the fact that there is more, do you want to call it enlightenment or activities to be worked on here?
I don't think it's that simple. I just think it's maybe because of by virtue of the fact that those areas have been plagued with insecurity issues, and maybe several international organizations have come to lend or to maybe to offer some support or offer some
Yeah, for
so
them.
there's more of a willingness. Okay, since you are willing to help, you are willing to bridge the gap. Let's make your environment as friendly as possible. Well, sometimes, or maybe down south, maybe there's a belief that maybe there's an adversarial relationship. Like I said, it's at the core of it, civil society. We are not adversaries of the government. We want to proceed.
Is that the impression government is giving you?
When you set when like as an example, as I said, you have 28 regulatory regimes. The constitution grants you freedom of association, and by virtue of that freedom of association, when you try to practicalize it, you're having several stumbling blocks. It gives the impression that maybe they don't want you to register. It gives the impression that maybe they don't want you to register.
Are these things justiciable, as they say?
Justiciable or not, the fact of the matter is that right is in chapter 4. It's in chapter 4. It's justiciable.
Okay.
It's chapter 4 of the Constitution. The right to freedom of association. It's there. So there's not a matter of justiciability. The issue is we need a situation where people in government realize that civil society organizations were not adversaries to them. We are partners. We are working in several communities to bridge that gap, between the governed and government itself. So if they understand that, I think the onus is on them to make sure that the operational environment is friendlier. It's much easier for civil society organizations to operate, and we can encourage each other. We can work in partnership to bridge that gap.
Okay, as we gradually round off on the program this morning, there is this accusation that came up recently, pointing accusing fingers to some CSOs as being financiers of terrorist activities. Now, let me ask you this question. What do you say to the accusations that CSOs must be watched like a hawk because they are vehicles for terrorist financing?
Yeah, we have seen that accusation come up, particularly for CSOs that operate in Northeast.
It even came up earlier this year too.
Yeah, earlier this year.
And it's even a global thing.
It's a global thing.
Yes. It's we had it from even the U.S. government, USAID.
USAID saying it
so
too.
Those accusations. Those accusations I dare say are baseless because we don't have. Show us the organization. Show us the organizations. Serious organizations, like I said, are being watched like a hawk. You have several organizations that you have to register with, that you have to operate with, if you want to operate optimally. So you should ideally, if you make that accusation, if you make that very, very serious accusation, you should be able to back it up. So in these communities, as I mentioned, the government, some of them don't even recognize, government has left them behind. There are certain parts of the Northeast where it's as if governance is just a frame. The Nigerian state is just a frame of mind. It's not something that actually they can actually see. But you have NGOs working in those communities, building wells, providing access to water, providing education, and you now want to accuse them of funding terrorism. I think it's wrong. I think we need to change that.
Okay, my final question now to Mrs. Ogidengbe. Now, the conference is starting tomorrow. What time and the venue of the conference, ma'am?
Okay, well, the conference is for those who are registered, so saying the venue now, so that's
okay. For those, those that are coming already.
Just remind of the theme.
The theme of the conference.
Okay, let me just
scaling policy to action, improving the operational environment for CSOs in the Southwest. Scaling policy to action, improving the operational environment for CSOs in the Southwest.
Okay, all right. We wish you all the best in all your activities. It's been a very informative session with you this morning. We've been speaking with the representatives of Global Rights Nigeria. They've told us a lot about the activities of civil society organizations in the country. And we're speaking with Mr. Damilola Deka. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
We've also been speaking with Mrs. Oluwatoyin Ogidengbe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Once again,
much.
I wish you all the best in all your activities. All right.
Thank you very much. Thank
All
you.
right. You're welcome. Okay, that's the wrap for today. It's been an extended version of From the Dailies AM update today. Coming out, thank you very much for
My
riding.
pleasure riding with you, brother.
Okay, I'll be back again tomorrow morning for a fresh edition of the program. My name is Adi Damola Lafenwa. Good morning.